Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of War Machines. So, last time we held Heat K, where another group of 12 robots all made their debut and looked to show they have what it takes to potentially win that grand final spot. And based on the results of the opening round matchups and the Redemption Rumbles, that group of 12 has been whittled down to 8 robots. And those 8 robots are going to fight it out bracket style tonight for the chance to earn a spot in this season's grand final. So, who's going to be the one to win 3 matchups tonight? I don't know, but I'm sure excited to find out. But before we get to the action tonight, let's go ahead and quick review the bracket. And here is tonight's bracket. So on the left side there, we'll start it off with the robot that I think came out and surprised everyone, including myself. We have Axolotl, who looked very good in their opening round matchup. They'll be taking on Kraken, who had a really shining moment in the Redemption Rumble. Then down below we got T1 and Pardon My French, a battle between a flipper and a spinner. That's sure to be a battle for the ages and should be a fun one. Then on the right side we got Lockjaw, who also looked very good in the last episode. They'll be taking on the cluster bot of Gemini. And then down below we got a battle of horizontal spinners, one of them has a lifter as well. We got Retrograde, who shined in their debut. They'll be taking on veteran team Rainbow to this series. So yeah, this should be a pretty fun bracket here. One of these robots is going to win 3 matchups and therefore claim that spot in the grand final. Who is it going to be? Be sure to tune into the rest of the episode to find out. But I think we should go ahead and get to the action and start talking about our first fight of the episode. For our first matchup of the night, we have a battle between 2 fellow BattleBots contenders. We have Gemini and Lockjaw. So on the left side, we have Gemini, a clusterbot team. They had to go through the redemption round after an early loss and a judge's decision to P1, but then really pulled through in the redemption rumble, showing that the clusterbot definitely has a lot to it in that redemption rumble with Mecha Rampage and Crossfire, as they use the fact that they have 2 robots to overwhelm both of their opponents. And now they're going to try to do the same thing to their opponent, Lockjaw. So Lockjaw, back once again in their 3rd season of this series, back with that vertical spinner design, and certainly started off the season strong with a victory over Crossfire, showing that all those upgrades for that robot certainly paid off. And now next up they're going to turn their attention towards Gemini. So what do both of these robots have to do here? So Gemini's strategy is certainly going to be to use the 2 robots aspect of it to overwhelm Lockjaw and hopefully leave Lockjaw vulnerable to where they can attack at those exposed tires and those exposed sides and avoid that vertical spinner as much as possible. And what's Lockjaw's strategy? Pretty much just avoid being overwhelmed. Probably take it to those 2 robots, try to get them separated, take them out one at a time or something like that. That's kind of what we've seen so far as for Gemini's past appearances in this series. So regardless, this should be a pretty awesome battle between these 2. It'll be interesting to see how well Lockjaw takes it to the clusterbot. This will certainly be a fun fight to lead off, so I think we should go ahead and get to this match. Time for this match to begin. Here comes Lockjaw going after the Black Gemini robot. Gemini taking lots of impacts from Lockjaw's vertical spinner, and Gemini already has lost a wheel. A wheel just popped out of that Gemini bot. The red Gemini bot coming in to get on the fun. They got a couple shots on Lockjaw's exposed side, and now Lockjaw going after the red Gemini bot. However, the Black Gemini bot moving pretty well despite losing that tire. Lockjaw, they seem to be going at it here, going after the Gemini robots one at a time here, trying to avoid getting overwhelmed by the 2 Gemini bots. And so far it's paying off. Lockjaw did lose a fork in one of those impacts, but it's not slowing Lockjaw down one bit so far in this fight. Sounds like Lockjaw is not very concerned about those 2 horizontal spinners. They are confident going in with this fork setup. So they're continuing to go weapon on weapon here. One of the Gemini bots just lost a disc now. So sounds like that lost wheel is really hurting the Gemini duo right now, because that Black Gemini bot is just slowly coming behind Lockjaw. But the red Gemini bot's smoking up, and now Lockjaw flipped over here. but able to self-right after a little weapon-on-weapon action with one of the Gemini bots. So, but yeah, down goes one of the Gemini robots. So now it's a one-on-one match. Lockjaw control board KO'd the red Gemini bot. However, to get the knockout, they gotta take out the second one, and they do! Lockjaw KO. Lockjaw had a clear strategy, and that was to go after the two Gemini robots one at a time, take them out one at a time, and avoid getting overwhelmed. Really paid off because they got a wheel very early on the black Gemini bot, which really hindered that one's movement and really reduced the effectiveness of this clusterbot duo. Yeah, by taking on these two one at a time, Lockjaw was very confident and comfortable with going weapon on weapon with the two Gemini robots. Confident they would win lots of those exchanges, and sure enough they did. Right after they knocked off that wheel, they went straight for the red Gemini robot, took it out, and then eventually finished off the black Gemini robot. Lockjaw taking out the Gemini robots one at a time sure paid off and led to a dominant KO. Great win by Lockjaw. They'll move on to round 2. Who will they fight in the next round? Well, we're going to determine that in our next matchup. Our next matchup is a battle of horizontal spinners. We have Rainbow and Retrograde. So on the left side we have Rainbow, who is a veteran to this series of War Machines. This is the 3rd season they've been a part of, and they haven't had the best track record. And while they did get that win over Kraken, it was definitely not a great win, because they were arguably losing quite a bit of that fight right there until Kraken got stuck upside down and wasn't able to self-right. So they're going to need to really prove themselves in this match if they want to show that they have what it takes in order to make it far in this series of War Machines. So we'll have to watch to see how well they built up on issues that have flamed them in either past fights and past seasons. But let's talk about their opponent. Their opponent is Retrograde, who is a rookie to the field of War Machines with a lifter and undercutter combination. That combination helped them a lot in their victory over Spear and Shield. They were able to get some great utilization of not one but both of those weapons. So yeah, I suspect we'll probably see usage from both of those weapons once again, and should make this fight extra interesting. So I think this one could really come down to the two spinners of this, similar to like what it did when Retrograde fought Spear and Shield. Whoever can land the more damaging shots and get the action in with their weapons that they want is probably what's going to come down to here. Retrograde probably going to try and probably going to invite some weapon-on-weapon action, just because they're probably not going to dent that armor of Rainbow, at least very easily. Well, Rainbow's probably going to try to go for those exposed wheels in Retrograde. Regardless, it should be a pretty fun fight to see, a very tactical fight for sure, and that should make all this stuff interesting. So I think we should go ahead and get to this match. Time for this match to begin. Looks like Retrograde aiming the horizontal spinner. Rainbow, the aggressor early on, weapon shot, and already I saw a piece come off. Looks like it was a piece of Rainbow's horizontal spinner and another piece of Rainbow's horizontal spinner. Retrograde on the attack early and often, and already Rainbow's weapon has broken. This is exactly what Retrograde is trying to go for in this match. Now they're trying to leave the lifter. Not sure if that's wise, because Rainbow still has a big chunk of that horizontal spinner. Nice lift, though, from Retrograde right there. However, they need to self-right because they accidentally flipped themselves. Now they got the horizontal spinner going once again, inviting more weapon-on-weapon action with Rainbow. It's like they're going for maybe penetrate that armor or something like that. Try and go for some of those exposed sides. Certainly wouldn't hurt for sure. So yeah, a couple more bits and pieces coming off here, and there's another big chunk of that spinner, and another little piece of that spinner. That spinner on Rainbow is coming apart. They need to avoid weapon-on-weapon contact clearly. They need to use what's left of that horizontal spinner to attack the exposed areas. But not going to happen, though, because of those last couple shots that took off not just the spinner, but they got a wheel as well, Retrograde did. Retrograde has Rainbow in shambles right now. Rainbow now with only one-sided drive, and the frame and stuff. So Retrograde now leading with the lifter. So they are able to take control of this match pretty quickly now. Rainbow has been reduced to a push spot, but I think it's going to be really hard for them to out-push a robot like Retrograde that has such a powerful lifter here. Amazing control that we're seeing from Retrograde here, taking control of the match right from the start. So we got a little over a minute left to go in this fight, and Retrograde has been dominant so far. Rainbow needs to do something fast, but I don't know how they can, because they got one wheel left. Retrograde leading with the horizontal spinner now, so they're going to try to finish the job here, see if they can disable Rainbow. Not sure how well that's going to happen, because Rainbow does have some pretty thick armor on that rep. So, yeah, coming back in for more attacks is Retrograde. They are landing quite a few hits, but not many of them have been slowing Rainbow down. I am seeing a little bit of smoke out of Rainbow, but they are still driving. They are still fighting, despite taking all these shots. So, now it looks like Retrograde, they're going to try to lead the lifter again. So, 20 seconds left to go in this fight. No, 15 seconds. No, 10 seconds now. But it is looking like we're going to have a judge's decision. Looking like both robots are going to survive this one. And certainly, what another awesome performance this was from Retrograde. So yeah, this fight will go to the judges, and I think this is probably going to be a pretty easy judge's decision. Right off the bat, Retrograde went straight for the weapon of Rainbow. Went weapon on weapon several times. Even got that lifter involved quite a bit. Another fight of awesome weapon execution from Retrograde. They took apart that horizontal spinner with their spinner, ripped off the entire spinner, even got a tire, which was not certainly something I was expecting. Then they got that lifter involved and demonstrated such great control here. This was easily a very dominant match by Retrograde, another well-performed match. You never know what happens when a fight could go to the judges. I imagine this fight's probably going to go to Retrograde, but as I said, you never know what could happen when the fight gets sent there. Credit to Rainbow for surviving all this punishment, and let's go ahead and now see what the judges had to say about this match. So, the judges' votes are in, and we have a unanimous decision. The winner is Retrograde! So yeah, I think that was a pretty easy judge's decision right there, because Retrograde had control of pretty much the entirety of the match, and they certainly just really took it to Rainbow and just absolutely dismantled that robot. So, yeah, Retrograde will certainly have their work cut out for them in their next matchup, though, because they'll be taking on another veteran in Lockjaw, and what an awesome fight that should be for sure. So, very excited for that one, but we have 2 more fights left to get to before we get to that one, so let's go ahead and start talking about our next matchup. So for our next matchup, we'll have a battle between Axolotl and Kraken. So on the left side, we got Axolotl, who really shined in their debuts, providing a dominant KO in order to get to this point over Mecha Ram. Then on the other side, we got Kraken, who looked very good in their opening round matchup, but sadly being unable to self-right in that match led to them having to fight in the Redemption Rumble, where they definitely proved themselves dominant and proved self-righting is no longer an issue for that robot. So, yeah, this should be a pretty awesome matchup. So we got two awesome spinners here, including Kraken, who got an awesome debut of that new overhead spinner, that hammer saw. So, certainly Kraken is definitely meant to be a real force to be reckoned with, and I imagine they're going to give Axolotl here a huge challenge. Same thing with Axolotl as well, because they also look very dominant themselves. So yeah, I suspect with this fight, it's going to come down to who can attack those exposed sides and who can create those damaging blows. Potentially disable the other's weapon, because I wouldn't be shocked if we see some weapon-on-weapon action. So, regardless, this should be an awesome fight here. We got a new robot who showed serious potential in the last episode, as well as Kraken, who came in with a really slick-looking design and a really high potential design. So this should be an awesome fight to see. I think we should go ahead and get to this matchup. Time for this matchup to begin. Both bots meet in the middle. Axelot an early shot and a huge hit right there that knocks Kraken off balance. I don't think it was wise for Kraken to show their backside like that. It's possible they were inviting weapon-on-weapon contact, but I don't think it really favored them. They are upside down and they just lost the wheel. Kraken needs to self-right. They've been trying to self-right. Axelot's been denying it from happening, and now Kraken just lost the entire hammer saw. Looks like Axelot went right for the arm of that spinner. They went right for that weapon, wanted to disable it, and Axelot clearly succeeded at that. Kraken able to get underneath Axelot. Might have been wiser for Kraken to go head on with Axelot, challenge them with those forks, because I think what they were trying to go for at the beginning of the fight was use the weapon from the backside, go weapon on weapon, and hope they could benefit from that and disable Axelot. But it did not work out for them, because they are now weaponless and at the mercy of Axelot's vertical spinner. Kraken hang in there thanks to those forks, but how much longer can they hold out? They are smoking pretty badly and have been for a while. But they sure are hanging in there pretty well and trying to put up the best fight they possibly can, trying to show that they can get control even without that overhead spinner. So coming back in is Kraken and Axelot. Another couple of pieces flying off right there.
Knockdown!
So yeah, that did it for that one. Control board KO for Axelot. Another masterclass of a performance here from that robot. That robot just dismantled Mecha Rampage, now just did the same thing with Kraken. I think Kraken made a huge error showing their backside, going weapon on weapon that way, because it led to them getting hurt more than it helped. So Axelot took advantage of that, dismantled Kraken piece by piece, and then eventually destroyed that spinner, got to some wheels, got to some of the electronics, and all that stuff eventually led to the defeat of Kraken. So another awesome victory by Axelot. They will move on to the next round, and the last matchup of the first round will determine their opponent, because our last matchup of the first round features P1 and Pardon My French. So on the left side we got P1, who was kind of one of the dark horses of last season. Made it on a pretty deep run last season compared to what they showed us in the first season, and then came in with this new front hinge flipper design with a lot of upgraded components and so on. And they looked very good in that opening round matchup with Gemini. However, their opponent is Pardon My French, who also looked very good, who dismantled Sporkanok thanks to that large drum spinner right there. So I suspect this is probably going to be a ground game war. Pardon My French is probably going to come in with some more forks. Looks going to look to try to out-wedge P1, get underneath that robot, send that robot flying, and hopefully get the knockout. While P1's probably going to try to avoid that drum spinner as much as they can, get underneath that robot, send it flying with that front hinge flipper, and keep it off balance. So that's kind of the routes P1 and Pardon My French like to take, and that's surely what they're going to show us in this match right here. So yeah, I think this should be a pretty interesting fight here. The winner of this will take on Axelot in the next round. I'm excited to find out who's going to take on that vicious drum spinner. So I think we should go ahead and get to this fight. Time for this match to begin. Pardon My French gains sprint speed. P1 rushing into that corner and already underneath Pardon My French. Interesting, the Pardon My French went with a wedge configuration, but maybe they thought that'd be lower to the ground than the usual fork setting. I don't know what the thought process was behind that. I wouldn't know what's going on in the pits, but I'm all for it. P1 easily getting underneath Pardon My French and using that front hinge flipper. Pardon My French off balance. They rely on that spinner and possibly the arena walls to be able to self-right and stuff, and certainly they need to be able to get upright and get themselves positioned to land a couple nice shots on part P1. So far, this driving match is being won by P1, who is easily outclassing the rookie bot here. A couple nice flips there from P1. That front hinge flipper continuing to prove that it can definitely have its way when it comes to Pardon My French and other heavyweight robots here. So, minute into this fight, fight, pardon my French, hasn't gotten one successful shot in with that spinner, other than maybe like fall damage. But regardless, though, this fight is being dominated by P1 so far. The veteran robot is just really taking it so far to the rookie. So, another flip there from P1, who's just been on top of this fight pretty much for the entire first half of the match. So, more uses from that front hinge flipper. Just excellent driving from P1 here. Definitely the person driving P1 doing an excellent job here. And they have definitely avoided taking huge amounts of damage from that drum spinner. Something Sporkanok wasn't able to do, unfortunately, when they fought Pardon My French in the last episode. So, a little over a minute to go here, and definitely been a very one-sided fight so far. And there we go. There's a couple nice shots from Pardon My French, landing another series of shots with that drum spinner, and I saw a piece did come off. Must be a small component of P1's, and it's probably the piece of the front hinge flipper. A couple of nice shots from P1 right there, or yeah, pardon my French here and there, but P1 right back on the attack. A couple of nice shots there from pardon my French. They're finally getting that drum spinner in on the fun here, but they still probably have a long ways to go. They probably still have a lot of catch up they need to do here in these last 20 seconds of this match. P1 is smoking, but that has not been slowing them down because they are still getting underneath pardon my French and using that front hinge flipper very well. So 10 seconds left to go in this fight. It is looking like we are going to have a judge's decision for this fight. And what a fight it was between these two contenders. Great matchup. So yeah, that does it right there. Excellent driving war between these two robots, and certainly I'd say P1 was definitely the victor in the driving class. For most of this fight, P1 was just tossing pardon my French around the arena with that front hinge flipper, just showing how effective this control bot is. And yeah, a lot went right for this robot, and pardon my French, not sure why they went with the wedge configuration as I said before, but they did get a couple of good shots here and there, so, but then it didn't come until like the last minute of the match. So right here, pardon my French started getting some shots in with that drum spinner, getting some points of their own, and even doing a little bit of damage to P1 and causing it to smoke. So pardon my French definitely won the damage category, but how much did they take from P1 in terms of the aggression and control and weapon effectiveness category? I don't know, but the judges' scorecards are in, so let's find out what the judges had to say. So the judges' votes are in, and we have a unanimous decision. The winner is P1! So yeah, I completely agree with that judge's decision as well. That is another fight that I think the judges got right. Outside of like a couple moments in that last minute, P1 was just showing utter dominance of this fight. They did take a little bit of damage, so they have a little bit of stuff to repair, but I think they'll definitely be ready in time when they'll take on Axolotl in the next round. What a fight that should be from a spinner bot that's shown great potential, and this front hinge flipper veteran team that has definitely shown that they are here to win the whole thing. So, awesome fight. Let's go ahead and review the bracket and check out what the top 4 is going to look like. So yeah, here is the top 4 right here. So, as I said, we'll have a matchup between Axolotl and P1. That should be an awesome fight, another awesome battle of offense versus defense, like what we saw in the last matchup. And then on the other side, we got Lockjaw and Retrograde, two spinner bots that have shown some serious potential throughout their first 2 matchups so far. That should be another awesome fight to see. So, definitely a lot to look forward to in this top 4, and this grand final spot is certainly not going to come down easily. So, let's go ahead and get to the fun and start talking about our first matchup of the final 4. So we're going to start off the top 4 with Axolotl and P1. So on the left side we got Axolotl, who has paved their way through the competition so far, just absolutely dismantling Mecha Rampage and Kraken. While on the other side we got P1, who has controlled both Gemini and Pardon My French, did a beautiful job with that. with that new front hinge flipper. I'm sorry, not new front hinge flipper. More like updated front hinge flipper design. So P1 definitely showing that those upgrades that they made just really paid off, and they're certainly excited to show them to the rookie bot here. So yeah, where's this matchup going to come down to here? So P1 is almost certainly going to be trying to do the same thing they were doing before, where they're almost certainly going to be trying to get underneath Axolotl, whether it's from the front, from the sides, wherever they can. Use that front hinge flipper to knock Axolotl off balance and try to avoid as much contact with that drum spinner as they possibly can. While Axolotl probably just get that drum spinner in on the fun. Probably keep that front pointed towards P1 or potentially target the sides and maybe try to go for some of those exposed wheels. So regardless, this should be a fun matchup to see, and a spot on the final in tonight's final is on the line here. So this is going to be a really critical fight for both robots. So excited to get to this one, so I think we should go ahead and get to this match. Time for this match to begin. So something I didn't mention before, but P1 mentioned a new paint job, and certainly that new robot looks slick. However, they just took a big licking from that drum spinner Axolotl. So awesome looking paint job here, and a nice flip from P1 right there. So P1 definitely looking like a scarier, a much more fierce looking robot. I really dig this paint job of this rep. So, but now Axolotl right back on the attack here, and certainly going to try to pick apart P1 piece by piece. And there goes a wheel on P1, and a nice flip right there from P1, and another nice flip from P1. So P1 might be hurt right now. They certainly aren't holding back. They are still going in for the attacks. Going to try to pick apart try to knock Axolotl off balance. P1 has shown they can win fights despite losing wheels, because just take their opening round matchup with Gemini. But now Axolotl has knocked off a second wheel, and more smoke is pouring out of P1. So not good here, and certainly P1's going to need to do something big in this one. So less than a minute to go in this fight. Gotta say Axolotl's on top right now, but it's close for sure. So
Knockout!
That does it there. Control board KO for Axolotl. And that new paint job, that new awesome looking paint job for P1 wasn't enough to save them there. So Axolotl, while they definitely took a couple flips from P1 in that front hinge flipper, definitely did not hold back in this one. They had quite a few solid shots with that drum spinner that penetrated the internals and even got to those wheels a couple times. So, as those are easy picking for a spinner bot like Axolotl, that certainly really paid off and certainly helped them hinder P1's movement and make it harder for P1 to get underneath and land the devastating strikes that they are so well known for with that front hinge flipper. We'll see Axolotl in tonight's final. We'll see P1 in the third place match, but we got one last fight to talk about before we get to finals. So for our second matchup of the top four, we have Lockjaw and Retrograde. So on the left side, we got Lockjaw, season's veteran to this competition, in for their third season, looking to improve upon that run from last season, and certainly a couple steps closer to that. So Lockjaw has managed to tear apart both Crossfire and Gemini in order to get here, and Retrograde is next on their hit list. So Retrograde, on the other hand, the lifter and undercutter combination, and has been able to effectively utilize both of those weapons so far in both of their matchups so far. So they've been able to dismantle both Spear and Shield and Rainbow so far. So what's it going to come down to for these? So I think with Retrograde, it's obviously how are they going to utilize those two weapons right there, because I would expect both of those are going to come into play once again in a fight like this, where that horizontal spinner is there to deal out some damage to Lockjaw, while the lifter is going to be to try to knock Lockjaw off balance at least, and potentially line them up for a hit from that spinner. So But then with Lockjaw, one thing that's really worth mentioning is I'm hearing Lockjaw has made some modifications for this match. We will see a different configuration for this match compared to what we have seen in Lockjaw's past 2 matchups. So I think depending on how that configuration works out for Lockjaw could really impact how this fight goes for them. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they have in mind, and I suspect we're going to see it real soon, so I think we should go ahead and get to this showdown. Time for this match to begin, and there's the first look at that configuration of Lockjaw. 1 fork and the spinner on the front, butt plow on the back. Lockjaw has 2 weapons of their own now, and already they've knocked Retrograde off balance. So it's like they're going to use that spinner for deal with the lifter. They're going to use that plow on the backside to deal with the undercutter of Retrograde. And so far, it's working out pretty well, as they are using that plow to deflect that horizontal spinner very well so far. So, great utilization here from Lockjaw. Some excellent driving to start this one off, and that spinner knocks Retrograde off balance. Now we got some weapon on weapon action. But now Lockjaw pointing the plow once again. Retrograde needs to try to get that lifter involved. Anytime Lockjaw shows that butt plow, it's almost certainly that lifter is lower to the ground than that plow. So yeah, Lockjaw's got to be careful though about those exposed wheels. Retrograde has had a couple close calls, almost gotten to some of those wheels. So yeah, right back on the attack is Lockjaw, getting some shots in with that spinner. Some excellent driving so far, but that was a close call right there. So Retrograde almost got a wheel with that. So, but how about this configuration that Lockjaw has come with? It is really working out for them so far. But there goes a wheel actually. I might have spoken too soon, because Lockjaw has now lost a tire. And there goes another tire. Retrograde doing some damage now, and now they have taken out a chunk of that butt plow. So Lockjaw, while the first half of this match has really gone in their favor, Retrograde might be catching up on points here. So, but going for some pieces, not going for some more damage. Lockjaw got a wheel on Retrograde in the process. So now Retrograde down to one-sided drive, and now Lockjaw coming with that plow once again, looking to continue to try to deflect that spinner. Now some more attacks in with that vertical spinner, and I see a lot of pieces just flew off. I think some of them were pieces of both bots. I think both of those spinners might have gotten hurt in that series of weapon-on-weapon shots, and now another chunk of the butt plow came off. And a nice flip from Retrograde. What a fight we are seeing here in the second half of this match. What we first were seeing was a lot of tactical driving from Lockjaw and how to deal with Retrograde. And now we're seeing insane amounts of damage done by both robots. Lockjaw now leading with the vertical spinner. Now that plow has been practically destroyed, so they're trying to go for that second wheel. And Retrograde trying to get that lifter involved. And Lockjaw's plucked off that second wheel. However, there's 10 seconds left to go. I think Retrograde is going to survive this fight, and we are going to have a judge's decision. And what an incredible fight that we got between both of these robots. Bravo to both of them. Wow, this was an incredible fight between these two robots. So Lockjaw coming in with a brand new configuration for this season, with a 1 fork vertical spinner in the front and then a butt plow on the backside, meant to deal with the horizontal spinner of Retrograde, and Lockjaw did a beautiful job using that at first. But then eventually Retrograde started picking apart Lockjaw with that horizontal spinner, got to multiple tires, ripped off big chunks of the butt plow, and just all around caused a lot of damage. But Lockjaw caused a lot of damage themselves, taking off a tire of Retrograde. Both these spinners got destroyed in the process, and certainly a lot to uncover here. Amazing, and gonna be curious to see how the judges are gonna score this one, because there was a lot of incredible action from both robots in this, and just hands down, bravo to both of these teams, because this was an awesome fight, but only one robot can go to the final. So yeah, judges' votes are in, and we have a unanimous decision. The winner is Lockjaw! So yeah, there it is. And I probably agree with that call, because I think for the most part, for the first half of that match, Lockjaw just absolutely dominated with some excellent driving on how to deal with that horizontal spinner and deal with the lifter on retrograde. However, Lockjaw eventually started taking a lot of damage of their own as retrograde managed to destroy that butt plow configuration, got to some of the tires, and just all out took a lot of damage in the process. So Lockjaw will move on to tonight's final. We'll see Retrograde in the third place match. Both bots have a hefty repair job ahead of them in order to get ready for that next match. But I'm confident both robots will be ready and both robots will be fighting in that next match. So should be an awesome showdown that we're about to see from really all four of these robots. So let's go ahead and review the bracket, and tonight's final will feature a battle between two vertical style spinners where we'll have Axolotl and Lockjaw. Those two robots are going to fight it out for a spot in this season's grand final. Before we get to that matchup, before we determine who will be taking that next grand final spot, we have a third place match to settle between P1 and Retrograde. Let's go ahead and start talking about that one. So yeah, our third place match features P1 and Retrograde, a battle between a veteran robot and a rookie contender. So on the left side we got P1, who did very well controlling their first two matchups, but then fell in a battle against the brute force of Axolotl's drum spinner. While on the other side we got Retrograde, who lost a very close judge's decision and dealt out a lot of damage and took a lot of damage in that matchup with Lockjaw. So what's going to come down to here? So P1 once again coming in with that new paint job for this one, and they're certainly going to be trying to use that front hinge flipper to just knock Retrograde off balance. Because the longer Retrograde is off balance, the less damage Retrograde is going to be able to do with that undercutter, and less control Retrograde is going to be able to perform with that lifter. So while Retrograde, on the other hand, probably going to try to target lots of those exposed areas on P1, more likely target those exposed wheels at least. Those are certainly going to be the big target points that Retrograde is going to be trying to go for and should be able to aid them in winning this fight. So this should be a pretty awesome showdown between these two contenders. Only one of them can be for sure confirmed a spot in the last chance series. So the winner of this robot will for sure get a spot in there. However, the losing contender, while they could potentially get there, the spot will be on the line because only half of all the fourth place contenders amongst the 16 heats will be advancing to that point. So it'll depend on that robot's resume, but it's better to win this fight anyway. So this should be a pretty awesome fight between two awesome robots, and I think we should go ahead and get to this matchup. For this matchup to begin, P1 rushing in there with that front hinge flipper, retrograding that horizontal sprint speed, got a little glancing shot at the front, nice flip there from P1, looking to knock Retrograde off balance with that front hinge flipper, and doing so right there, they have flipped Retrograde over. Notice that Retrograde tends to have struggles to self-right sometimes, so P1's going to want to try to have more of that. However, P1 just lost a chunk of that front hinge flipper, courtesy that undercutter on Retrograde. So, yeah, it comes P1 once again. They need to try to avoid taking as much damage as possible from Retrograde if they want to win this fight. Because almost certainly more damage that they take is certainly going to hinder them in the hands of the judges. However, we got a nice flip from Retrograde right there. Now P1 right back on the attack. Retrograde not spinning the undercutter. Wonder if that's on purpose for like better control or something like that. But it's not really paying off right now. So now P1 just continued to knock Retrograde off balance. See, Retrograde does have the horizontal spinner going once again. They must have had it turned off, probably for better control, as I said. But P1 just continued to knock Retrograde off balance with that front hinge flipper, and Retrograde just not having any answers and not any way to fight back so far. So, because this fight definitely been dominated by P1 so far. halfway through this fight here, Retrograde has gotten some solid damage in, but this fight has been pretty much majority for P1. A couple more pieces flying off, more primarily pieces of that front hinge flipper. See that they've lost probably like 3/4 of that flipper so far, but there is still enough there for them to be able to still make an impact, for that weapon to still make an impact in this fight. But still gotta be careful, gotta watch that control board as well, as I see it is getting pretty low there on the top left of the screen there, P1. So now P1 getting that front hinge flipper in once again. They get a nice flip, but the flipper definitely showing it doesn't have as much power as it did at the start of the match. A lot of that is probably just because so much of it had been broken off by that horizontal spinner on Retrograde. So, a couple nice flips. And I see a wheel was lost by P1. Retrograde has taken a wheel off of P1, but they're probably still behind on points right now. They still have 30 seconds left to go. Plenty of time for them to be able to do something or potentially get the KO. Yeah, I think that could be an excellent path to victory here for them. So, coming back in with that horizontal spinner, taking a couple more pieces off. I think they took off the rest of that flipper. I think P1 is weaponless for the rest of this fight, but it is not going to matter because we have under 5 seconds left to go in this match. We are going to have a judge's decision for this third place match. So there you have it. Lots of judges' decisions in this episode so far. This one was surely another excellent fight, an excellent driving performance from P1. P1 needed to avoid that horizontal spinner as much as possible, and while that certainly didn't happen the entire time, because as you can see they lost big chunks of that flipper really throughout the match, they certainly did the best they could and was still able to get lots of flips in and control majority of the match for sure, large chunks of the match for sure. That front hinge flipper, while it was damaged, certainly were able to get lots of amazing action in with that weapon, and certainly was able to keep Retrograde off balance as much as they possibly could and minimize the amount of control that bot could have. So this should be a pretty interesting judge's decision to call here. I think we should go ahead and hear what the judges had to say. So yeah, the judges' votes are in, and we have a unanimous decision. The winner is P1! Yeah, I think that was the right call once again, because P1, despite losing lots of big chunks of that flipper and eventually the whole thing late into the match, P1 dominated like 80-90% of the match for sure. So certainly that really paid off for that robot, and despite the fact that they took a lot of damage, they got the job done with their control bot aspects, and all that stuff certainly led to them securing this victory in this fight and securing their spot in the last chance section. We'll see who they take on in the last chance section, and as for Retrograde, they're not out yet, but I think they have a good resume to get a spot into that last chance section, but we'll have to see. Anyway, we have one last fight left in the night, and it is to determine a grand final spot. We have Axolotl and Lockjaw. So two very similar vertical spinner designs, two robots with a set of forks up front. They're looking to scoop up their opponent and deliver them right into that deadly spinner of theirs. So yeah, what's this going to come down to here? So both robots have highly damaging vertical spinners, and they both have exposed wheels. So I suspect if we're either going to see lots of driving, tactical driving, trying to get to the other's exposed wheels, or we could possibly see some weapon-on-weapon action between the two robots, at least. And I suspect whoever either wins that weapon-on-weapon action in order to knock the other off balance, or potentially gets to the opponent's weak sides, is probably going to be the one to come out on top in this fight. So yeah, on one hand, the winning team will for sure get a spot in the grand final, while on the other hand, losing robot will have an advantage in the last chance section and could have an easy path, to get to the grand final. They'll have some obstacles to get through along the way. But this should be an awesome fight regardless. And I think we should go ahead and get to this fight and determine who will be claiming the next spot in this season's grand final. Time for this matchup to begin. Here comes Lockjaw, and right off the bat, some weapon-on-weapon action. But what happened to Lockjaw, though? Lockjaw has lost the entire vertical spinner. Well, that's what I was talking about right there when I was saying weapon-on-weapon action. Somebody's got to favor it right there, and certainly Axolotl favored it. Lockjaw definitely took the worst of it, because they have lost that entire vertical spinner. Lockjaw now going to be relying on those forks to help them control the match, but they've already lost one of those, and they've already lost one tire, courtesy of one of those shots previously. Axolotl already has Lockjaw at their mercy, and they've taken off another tire and taken off the other four. So Lockjaw in trouble early on, and not even a minute into this fight, they already have one wheel left, no tires left. Wow, what a dominating fight from Axolotl. I think this is probably the fastest knockout of all the Heat finals that we have seen so far this season. Sheer dominance from Axolotl here, and certainly an eye-opener to the rest of the competition. Wow, I expected to see some weapon-on-weapon action, but this I did not see coming. Axolotl, we saw Lockjaw charge in for a weapon-on-weapon hit, and that fight hurt them more than it helped. Lockjaw lost a vertical spinner, and all that stuff just left them so vulnerable to the drum spinner of Axolotl, who managed to tear apart Lockjaw piece by piece, land devastating shot after devastating shot. Lockjaw just got picked apart piece by piece in this one, and lost the vertical spinner, lost both forks, lost all four tires, and that eventually led to them being tied out and Axolotl securing that grand final spot. Certainly an awesome win from Axolotl. Can't wait to see what they are able to do in this season's grand final bracket. So yeah, let's go ahead and review. So after completion of this bracket, Axolotl has won 3 matchups and therefore has claimed their spot in this season's grand final. Axolotl has proven that drum spinner is an absolutely fierce weapon, and certainly is not one to underestimate for sure. That robot could potentially make a lot of noise in the grand final bracket. There's already a highly stacked amount of competition there. Then on the other hand, we will for sure see Lockjaw and P1 in the last chance section, and we'll potentially see Retrograde there as well. Retrograde has definitely put together an excellent resume so far, but we'll have to see how it compares to all the other 4th place finishers by the time we get through the heats in the semifinal section. So yeah, this was an incredible night for sure, filled with lots of robot mayhem, and it should be exciting to see what we have for the next in store. So yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this group. So thanks for tuning in to this one. Be sure to tune in next time for Heat L, where we will see another top 16 contender make their return, as well as several other veteran robots to this, a couple heavily fan favorite robots from what we've seen in BattleBots, and quite a few other new contenders that should definitely make their mark as early as possible into this season. So there's a lot of competition in that group, and I'm really excited to present all of that to you all. So thanks for tuning in, anybody. Thanks for supporting all this. If you enjoyed it and wish to come to another episode, tune into the next episode. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for sure. So yeah, anyway, that's all from me. So thanks for watching once again, and I will see you all next time. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. Thanks for watching.